Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads Continue with Wicked. Chapter 11 of The Murder and Its Afterlife. By the time the storm lifted and the witch awoke from what she now identified as a horrible hangover, she wasn't sure if it was the same day. She wasn't even sure she had gotten near them. Could she have let them slip up through the fingers like that? But whatever the case, delusion or foggy memory, the witch didn't dare follow them into the Emerald City. Madame Morrible had many friends in this rotten regime, and now news would have gotten there by now. There might even be search parties for the witch. So be it. Though it galled her, for the time being she had to give up on the idea of reclaiming Nessa's shoes. She scarcely retested during the entire trip back to Kiamako, except to stop and pick some berries, and nibble some nuts and sweet roots to keep her strength up. The castle had not been burned down. The wizard's reconnaissance army was still camped at the outpost near Red Mill in a state of board readiness. Nanny was busy crocheting a pretty casket cover for her own funeral and making guest lists. Most of the guests were already in the other land, presuming that for Nanny there was another land. How nice it would be if I see Emma Clutch again. I quite agree, shouted the witch, giving Nanny's shoulders a squeeze. I always liked her. She had more character than that simpering Glinda. You were devoted to Glinda, you were, said Nanny. Everyone knew it. Well, no more, said the witch. The traitor. You smell of blood. Go wash up, said Nanny. Is it your time? I never wash, you know that. Where's Lear? Who? Lear. Oh, around here somewhere, she smiled. Look in the fish well. By now an old family joke. What nonsense is this, said the witch, finding Lear in the music room. They were right all along, he said. Look what I finally caught after all these years. It was the golden carp that had long haunted the fish well. Oh, I admit I thought that it was dead. I brought it up with a bucket, not with a hook or a net, but even so. Do you think we'll be able to tell them we finally caught it? After all these months, we began to talk about Sarima and the family as if they were ghosts, riding just around the blue curve of the spiral staircase in the tower, suppressing giggles at this long, long game of hide-and-seek. We can only hope so, she said. She wondered faintly if it was immoral to raise children in the habit of hope. Was it not, in the end, all the harder for them to adjust to the reality of how the world worked? Everything else was all right while I was gone. Just fine, he said. I'm glad you're back. She grunted and went to greet Chistery and the chattering kin. In her room, she hung the old glass with a cord and nail and kept from looking at it. She had a horrible feeling that she would see Dorothy, and she didn't want to see her again. The child reminded her of someone. It was all that unquestioning directness, and the gaze unblinkered by shame. She was as natural as a raccoon, or a fern, or a comet. The witch thought, is it Nor? Is it that Aunt Dorothy reminds me of how Nor was at this age? But back when the witch had not cared for Nor, not really though, her face had been a small velvet reworking of Fiero's. Except for Nessarose and Shell, the witch had never worn to the glowing promise of children. Lois felt more alone in this regard than in her color. No, and now her glance did fall on the tired old looking-glass. Despite her intentions, she thought, the witch with her mirror. Why do we ever see but ourselves, and that's the curse. Dorothy reminds me of myself at that age, whatever it is. The time in ovals. There is a green girl, shy, gawky, and humiliated. To avoid the pain of damp feet, splashing around in clammy legs made in the swamp half-kite and waterproof boots. Mama, pregnant with Shell, huge as a barge. Mama praying non-stop for months that she might at last bring a healthy child into a world. Mama dumped the bottles of liquor and the pin lava leaves into the mud. Nanny tends to little Nessa, boosting her around in the daily hunt for charfish, needleflowers, and broad and bean vines. Nessa can see, but she cannot touch. What a curse for a child. No wonder she believes in things she couldn't see. Nothing is provable by touch. For his atonement, Papa who takes the green girl with him on an expedition to the relatives of Turtleheart, a many-branch family living in the nest of huts and walkways, suspended by a grove of bored, rotting supple trees. The quadlings, who are more comfortable on their haunches, duck their heads. The smell of raw fish in their homes on their skin. They are frightened of the Unionist minister finding out in their squalid hamlet. I have no firm memory of individuals, but for one old matriarch, toothless and proud. The quadlings come up after a period of shyness, not to minister but to me, the green girl. She is no longer I. She is too long ago. Only she, impenetrable, mysterious, and dense. She stands as Dorothy stood, some newborn courage making her spine straight, her eyes unblinking. Her shoulder back, her hands at her side, submissive to the stroke of her fingers on her face, unflinching in the cause of missionary work. People ask forgiveness for the death of Turtleheart, maybe some 5 years earlier. He says it is his fault. He and his wife had both fallen in love with the quadling glassblower. What can I give you to make up for it, he says. Elphaba the girl thinks she is mad. She thinks they are not listening. They are mesmerized by her weirdness. Please forgive me, she says. The matriarch alone responds to the words. Maybe she is the only one who actually remembers Turtleheart. She has a look of someone caught venturing beneath a rock. Well, in a people whose moral code is so lax, so little bit is wrong. For her, this encounter is a mysterious, complicated transaction. She says something like, we don't strive, and not for Turtleheart, no. And she strikes Papa on the face with a reed, cutting him into thin stripes. I was only a witness. I was not really alive then, but I saw. That was when Papa began to lose his way. It dates from the whipping. I see him shocked. It doesn't occur to his conception of moral life that some sins are unforgivable. He blanches, onion white behind the blood-curdled perforations of her attack. Maybe she has every right to do what she's done. But in Papa's life, she's become old Cambrisha. I see her willful and proud. Her moral system doesn't allow forgiveness. She's just as incarcerated as he, but she doesn't know it. She grins, all gums and menace, and rests the reed on her collarbone, where its flesh is tipped like a necklace around her neck. He points to me and says, not to me, but to them all, isn't this punishment enough? Elphaba the girl does not know how to see her father as a broken man. All she knows is that passes his brokenness to her. Daily his habits of loathing and self-loathing cripple her. Daily she loves him back because she knows no other way. I see myself, the girl witness, wide-eyed Dorothy, staring at a world too horrible to comprehend, believing, by dint of ignorance and innocence, that beneath his unbreakable contract of guilt and blame, there is always an older contract that may be blind and released in a more solitary way, a more ancient precedent of ransom, and we may not always be tormented by our shame. Neither Dorothy nor young Elphaba can speak of this, but the belief of it is in both of our faces. And I'm going to stop it right there, and I'm going to continue later. Bye.